Hey everyone, John here from testprepinsight.com, and today we're going to be talking about how to study for the GRE. If you're just starting out, I'm going to break down how your time is going to be best spent, what study materials you should use, and a few other tips and tricks. So let's get to it. And by the way, I should just mention up front here that since I'm just going to be focusing on the highlights in this video, if you find you need some more detail at any point to create your study plan, you can always check out our full detailed written guide. An easy way to get there is just to Google Test Prep Insight, how to study for the GRE. That's the quickest way to find it. Okay, since I'm assuming that you're just starting out, let's start at a high level and work our way down into the more granular issues. In fact, let's just start with a quick 20-second recap of what's on the GRE, what it tests. Well, the GRE is going to test you on basic arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis, as well as some college-level vocabulary. And specifically, through these concepts, it aims to measure your ability to analyze written material, think critically, and solve problems. It does this through three sections: analytical writing, verbal reasoning, and quantitative reasoning. Or in layman's terms, you get a section for math, English, and essay writing. Well, technically it's one essay section and two math and two verbal sections, but it's pretty simple. The math and verbal sections are each scored on a scale of 130 to 170, and your essay is scored from 0 to 6 in half-point increments. I've got more detailed information on GRE scoring on our website if you want to check that out. I'll leave a link to that down below, but I think that's sufficient to get us going here. All right, so knowing what's on the test, let's zoom out and chat about the high-level ways that you can study. And you've basically got two of them. One, you can do it yourself with various prep resources and a homemade study plan. Or two, you can use an all-in-one prep course that basically guides you through the process. Or technically, there's a third option. You could just not study at all and just take the exam. Though to be clear, I do not recommend that at all. I can almost guarantee you've forgotten 90% of the algebra and other math concepts tested on the GRE, and you're for sure gonna need to brush up on verbal, especially the vocab that they're gonna test you on. So let's just throw that third option right out the window. So you've really got two options: the DIY approach or using a full prep course. And if you're wondering why everyone doesn't just do one or the other, the answer is pretty obvious: cost. The DIY approach is the cheaper way of doing it, where you make your own study plan from scratch and pull together free and cheap resources from ETS, the makers of the exam, and Amazon books. And then obviously the other method of studying with a full-blown prep course simply costs more. Courses typically cost anywhere from $150 to $1,000 depending on what you need and what score you're looking to get. So let's start with the DIY approach. And I have nothing against going it alone. It's just a little harder and usually a bit more work since you're basically creating your own study course. But let's talk about how you would go about doing it yourself. And the first step is gathering your study materials. Some blogs and other YouTubers might tell you to start by making a study plan, but that's always confused me because how can you make a study plan if you don't know what you're going to be using to study? So I like to start by pulling together the prep resources and tools first. And I would suggest starting with the official prep materials from ETS. What you're going to want to buy there is called the Official GRE Super Power Pack. I know it's kind of a stupid name and I can't say it without thinking of the Power Rangers or some superhero comic. It's 4 official practice tests from ETS, as well as another 300 or so practice problems from the makers of the exam. Now, obviously the quality and realism of this practice material is the best you can get, but to be honest, the explanations that they offer for each question when you're reviewing are pretty weak. And the testing strategies that they suggest aren't that great either. So what I would suggest doing is using these materials for practice work. They're great for that. And then combining that bundle with another prep book or two that contains more robust instructional material. That's going to give you your math and verbal refreshers and teach you more robust strategies for tackling different problem types. And they generally provide several hundred additional practice problems as well, with much better explanations. Now, which one to grab off of Amazon is a bit of a challenge. If you just search GRE prep on Amazon, you're gonna get like 1,000 results. There are literally dozens and dozens of prep books out there. However, I'll just say that we've purchased and used a bunch of them over the years, and we definitely have a couple favorites. I'll link our 2 favorite Amazon prep books down below in the description for you, as well as that Super Power Pack from ETS. So make sure to check out that text down below the video screen, and I'll try to make your life a little easier. But once again, get your official GRE prep material and a book or two from Amazon. And then after that, the next step, as I alluded to a minute ago, is to create your own study plan. And the bad news here is that there is no silver bullet. There's no one-size-fits-all study schedule. It's going to totally depend on your availability to study, when your exam date is, and your strengths and weaknesses. So what I'd recommend doing is first determining when your test date is and how many days you have to study between now and then. Then second, be realistic about how much you can study each week. With work or school or whatever else you have going on, how much can you actually study? Then third, look at the study material that you have on hand. How many chapters do you have to read in your study books, and how many total practice problems and practice exams do you have? With this info, you should be able to back into what you basically need to accomplish each week. So if you've got 10 weeks, say, and you can study 10 hours per week, you know you've got 100 total hours to allocate. So read the first chapter of your book and work 30 or 40 practice problems, then ask, how long did that take you? Well, whatever the answer is, extrapolate that out. If you figure based on the time that you spent doing that, times however many chapters you have to read and all of the practice work that has to be done, that you're looking at 150 total hours, then you need to start cutting material. And don't forget about the practice exams. You're definitely going to want to sit for at least a half dozen full-length practice tests between now and test day, so make sure to factor that into your analysis. So again, after your first day, you do a little back of the envelope math and figure it's going to take you, say, 180 hours to get through all of the work that you have to on hand. Well, clearly it's time to prioritize. And that's where you're going to want to do a diagnostic exam. So day 2, sit for a full-length practice test and then carefully review it. This is going to do a few things for you. For one, it's going to totally blow your mind and show you how unprepared you are for the exam. Then second, it's going to start getting you conditioned for the real GRE. But third, and by far most importantly, it's going to tell you where you need to prioritize your time going forward. Spend a good amount of time reviewing your exam results and looking at every problem. You're going to see pretty quickly that you have strengths and weaknesses. Maybe you're strong on verbal and weak on math. That's not uncommon at all. Or maybe you're even able to pinpoint certain subtopics where you're strong and weak. If you can do that, that's even better. But once you have a clear picture of where you're weak, allocate most of your study time there and less where you're already scoring okay. I mean, let's be real. If you're already scoring like 80% on verbal, why are you going to bother hammering practice problems and reading chapters? Your gains there are going to be so incremental. So start fine-tuning your plan to give yourself tons of time in weak areas and less time in strong areas. This might mean skimming or even skipping some sections of your prep books where you feel good and spending more time on practice problems where you're weak. Again, I can't give you an exact formula for what that looks like because everyone is different. It's definitely more art than science, but start mapping out your study plan for the next however many weeks with those priorities in mind. And from there, it's pretty simple. Follow your study schedule and get your work done. Buckle down, read your weekly chapters, work your practice problems, carefully review your practice sets to learn from your mistakes, and take a full-length practice exam every week or two. And on that point, I'd suggest back-weighting practice exams to the back half of your study schedule because obviously a practice test isn't going to be super valuable after just a week or two of studying when you've only learned like 20% of the material. You're going to want to make sure you're a good chunk of the way through your prep materials before you start sitting for full-length mock exams. But definitely by the final few weeks, you want to be doing at least one practice test per week. But that's sort of it for the DIY approach. Cobble together your prep resources and materials, start building a study plan based on those factors that I mentioned, and then hit the books. Now, if that doesn't sound like your style because you want more hand-holding or live classes, or maybe you just want a prep company to make your life easier, the other approach is buying a full-scale prep course. And frankly, between the two options, if you have the money, that's my recommended approach. Full-scale prep programs are just going to provide you with more and better study tools and materials and give you more support and guidance throughout the prep process. Now, in terms of study materials, when you do the DIY thing, you're going to have books and practice problems at your disposal. With prep courses, you're going to have the same two things, but you also get on-demand video lessons, possibly live classes if you go that route, a personalized study plan, analytics on your progress, flashcards, and some other stuff. So in short, you definitely get more material with a prep course than going it alone. And this is big. Typically, the video lectures you get with a prep course are much more engaging than reading a chapter from a book, and they will really help students who are visual learners. Because instructors do demonstrate things out right on screen, and it also helps students who have trouble buckling down and staying motivated to read. So that's a big differentiator here. And of course, if you get a prep course that's built around live classes, that obviously takes your prep to a whole new level. The instruction will be more in depth, you can interact with your teacher and your peers, and it keeps you accountable with a live class schedule. Moreover, rather than having to make your own schedule, prep courses typically build a custom schedule for you based on the same factors that I talked about earlier, but without you having to do any of the work. You're going to enter some info about when your test date is, how much time you have to study each week, and then you'll take a diagnostic, which, based on the results, will flow through into an optimized study plan based on your strengths and weaknesses. Plus, that study plan and the course will update and change based on ongoing progress and performance, which is really cool. And then lastly, with the full prep course, you get performance analytics so you can track your progress, see where you're making improvements, and get a visual readout of your practice work, usually with hyperlinks over to missed problems and explanations. So for those reasons, live classes, on-demand video lessons, a personal study planner, analytics, and more, I recommend prep courses over going it alone with a couple books. And if that sounds like it's more up your alley, I also have a couple recommended courses for you. There are about 15 or 16 different GRE prep courses out there these days, but our favorite by far is going to be either Kaplan or Manhattan Prep. For live classes, if that's what you want, you've got to go with Kaplan. Their instructors have been around forever and know this material super well. Their lesson plans are also on point and flow really nicely, and they assign targeted homework before and after class. So if you plan to have actual live classes be the central component of your study plan, we highly recommend Kaplan for that. They have the best live GRE prep classes that we've seen. And another option, if you're okay going the self-guided route and just want on-demand video lessons to be the backbone of your study plan and instruction, then Manhattan Prep is our recommendation there. Their video lectures are the best we've reviewed by a long shot. They're all really engaging and funny. Their instructors that teach them are simply awesome, and they're short and digestible. They're all broken up into these manageable chunks. And the really nice thing about Manhattan's on-demand course is that it's actually pretty affordable. Their course, called GRE Interact, costs just $300, so all things considered, it's really not that bad. And even at that, Manhattan Prep as well as Kaplan are both really aggressive with deals and special promotions, and you can almost always find a discount on their courses, so make sure to check for coupon codes. In fact, I'll do my best to keep the description down below the video screen updated with the most current discounts that I can find floating around out there, so give that text below the video screen a good look before buying. You can usually save at least 10% or more with each company, so make sure to check that out. But anyway, that sort of covers everything that I wanted to talk about, so let me give you some quick final thoughts. But real quick, before I get to that and forget, I should just mention that since you are studying for the GRE, every single month here at Test Prep Insight, we actually give away a free prep course to one lucky person. It's super simple to enter and everyone out there is eligible. I'll put all the details down below in the description on how to get entered, but just know it takes like 10 seconds and hey, you never know, you could win a totally free GRE prep course. Okay, so some final thoughts here. To kind of recap everything, you're definitely going to want to study for the GRE. Don't go in there without having done any prep work. It's just going to be a bloodbath. But which way to study is sort of up to you. If you don't have the funds for a full prep course and feel comfortable building out your own study plan, then get the books that I suggested, build your schedule based on those strengths and weaknesses, and commit yourself to studying at least several hours per week. However, if you do have the funds, I strongly recommend a prep course for the reasons I discussed earlier, with live classes, on-demand video lessons, more practice material than what you're going to get in a book, a personalized study plan, analytics, and more. You just simply can't compete with the level of prep resources. Plus, you're leaving it to the experts to craft a plan for you. So if it were me, I'd buy the Kaplan or Manhattan course and follow their plan to a T. But anyway, that's all I've got for you. I hope this video has been helpful and you learned a little something. If so, please return the favor by subscribing to our channel, liking this video, and drop me a quick comment below. That would be really appreciated. And again, if you want to see that full, detailed written guide that I mentioned earlier in this video, just hop on over to our website. Again, that's testprepinsight.com. Or you can always check out the other videos we have on our YouTube channel. We've got a bunch of great content out there. But as always, thanks for watching, best of luck, and I'll see you in the next one.